In this video I'm going to show to you that the primary colours are not what you thought they were. Now what first got me interested in this, and it was a puzzle that I needed to solve, was my own difficulty at making the colour magenta with paint. First of all, that was the first thing that got me interested in colours in a sort of scientific way, because I went to art school really, and these are the three colours that you get when you buy a paint set for your children, or when you're a child. They're the colours they give you, and they call these the primary colours, and they say you can make all the other colours out of these. And then they tell you, do they not, that you've got secondary colours, which are your orange and your purple, and obviously blue and yellow mixing together and making green. That's what they tell you, right? And there's your rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. Well, blue, and then indigo. Well, let's have indigo added to it. In between the two, there's indigo. So straight away we've got a problem. We've got 7 colours, but apparently 3 primary colours and therefore 3 secondary colours. Mix them all together and you get black. So why have we got 7 colours and not 6? There should only be 6. Well, that's the first explanation that will spring to your mind is, well, that's just the way our eyes process the rainbow. We split it into 7. That's how we see it. Maybe other people could split it into 10. But in fact, as you and I well know, some of these colours look more or less like each other than others. So yellow and blue you're not likely to confuse, but red and orange we might argue about what's red and what's orange. And blue and indigo, well, they're both blue anyway, aren't they? I always felt that indigo was a bit of a weird one to shove in there, and I always wondered why they did that. Well, I think you're going to understand by the end of this why that's been done, because if you look at your television screen, you will see that it's made out of dots of indigo and green and red. There's your 3 primary colours on your television screen. That's all that your television screen needs to make the other colours. It doesn't seem to need yellow, does it? Doesn't appear to need it. So what we've got here is a whole heap of confusion. So I'm going to start unpicking it. First of all, I'm just going to deal with this. We're going to leave the light for a minute, but that's going to be crucial to the whole thing. But we're going to leave the light for a second, the television. And I'm just going to unravel what's happening here so that this isn't in your head in the way when we move on to the light. So what we've got here is 3 pigments that you can mix together and they will make other colours appear. The pigments don't make the colours are in the light. That's why I say they make the colours appear. They don't make the colours. The pigments do not make colours. What they do is they absorb colours. And the colour that's reflected off them is the colour that's not absorbed by them. Now I know this is already doing your head in, but you've got to think like this in order that when we get onto the light, then it will all suddenly start to fall into place magnificently for you. But I'm going to forget about that just for a moment. I'm going to just talk about mixing colours in a naive way, like as if we're children, just to get round this rainbow mess, okay? This mess of colours in the rainbow. Well, what drew my attention to the problem here as a child was the fact that I could never make a certain colour with my paint when I was at school, I could never make this colour. Try as I might, I could never make magenta, and I felt I was a failure as a painter because I tried it with red with a bit of white in it, then I did a bit of the blue, I did a bit of dark blue, I added some ochre yellow, I tried adding green to it, I tried adding grey, I tried adding grey, darker greys, lighter greys, browns. I could never get magenta. Do you know why? Because magenta should be here in the middle. Your primary colours in your children's paint set should be magenta, yellow and cyan, this light blue colour, call it cyan. From these three colours you can make a painting with any colour in it, okay? Any colour that's a pigment colour. You can't necessarily reproduce colours that you would see in the sea or in a diamond or in the sky, because some of these colours have refractive properties and they actually fall beyond what paint can render. But that's beyond what I'm talking about here. Just a little thing for you to think about later. But why couldn't I make this colour? Because in fact this red should be where the orange is. Red is made by mixing yellow and magenta. And you're saying, what? He's telling us red is made by mixing other colours? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that when you mix yellow and magenta, you get red. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. I know it's a bit browny coloured, partly because my paint water has gone browny. So we'll do it again. Get some yellow ready. That's a nice clean yellow we've got there. We will get some magenta ready. There's magenta, and when we mix them together we get red. So at the moment now what you need to process this idea that red has got yellow in it. If as a painter you don't realise that red has yellow in it, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be a good painter, because you're not going to understand. You're not going to understand this simple colour. So let's just go back to what the colours should be in a paint set as far as primary colours are concerned in a paint set. Yellow, okay, because it's not difficult. Magenta, cyan. Now, our secondary colours, easy, red, made from mixing magenta and yellow. Mix the red and the blue, and what do we get? We get purple or violet. Mix the blue and the yellow, and what do we get? We get green. Okay. Now, isn't it interesting how close these three colours are, the secondary colours, the correct secondary colours in our paint set, how close they are to these three colours here that are the primary colours on our television screen. And if we make a chart like this, because this is all for very good, clear, logical, scientific reasons. Nothing will be confusing about this if you watch to the end, if you can bear it. So when we make our three chart like this, colour chart. Okay, and we will have what we'll actually end up with, obviously black in the middle, is we'll end up with our green here, we'll end up with our dark blue here, or what we're calling purple. But don't forget when you've been mixing your children's palette, these incorrect colours, you've been mixing red with blue to get purple. But red was never a primary colour to start with in your children's palette. It shouldn't have been. It should have been magenta. And when we mix magenta and cyan, what we actually get isn't purple. It is. And this is where it begins to fall into place, I hope for you. We get indigo. Look. Our television colours. Right. So these are the 6 colours that should be the 6 colours of the rainbow. Orange isn't even in there. You could argue that orange isn't even a colour. It's just a shade of red. Because red is already the secondary colour from mixing the magenta and the yellow. And we just put more yellow in it and we get orange. So we see orange as being a separate colour from red, but it isn't. Okay? Red is just dark orange, if you want to look at it that way. If you want to say that orange always has yellow in it, well, I'm afraid red always has yellow in it. So therefore, red is dark orange. Simple as that. And it's interesting because I've had many arguments with people over whether things are orange or red. So clearly it's a very subjective colour. And there is part of the explanation, I think. For me anyway, that works as an explanation. What we have is our primary colours of light in the centre here. Do you see that? This is where it's going to start to get quite exciting. If you're not already breathless from this, we've got our primary colours of light in the centre there. And what we've done when we've painted, if we go right back to the beginning, is we have blocked certain colours. We've made the paper absorb certain types of light by covering them in pigment. So pigment is just something that absorbs light, something that creates an absorption of light. Now, when we paint with what we call, let's go for an easy colour like blue. When we paint with what we call blue, yeah, cyan here, it's light blue. What we're actually doing is we're covering the paper with a pigment that absorbs red light. Okay? When we paint with blue, it's a pigment that absorbs red light. When we paint with magenta, we're covering the paper in pigment that absorbs green light. Only green. 3 colours of light. These are the 3 colours of light. When we paint with this pigment here, that you could call yellow, absorbs blue light. That's all it does. It absorbs 1 colour of light. It only absorbs 1. So each of what we call the primary colours of paint absorbs 1 colour of light. Because it absorbs 1 colour, it reflects the remaining 2. Because blue absorbs red, it reflects indigo and green. And what this means is that indigo light or blue, plus green light gives yellow. Did I say yellow? Sorry, I meant gives the cyan that we were talking about. Let's say. So we've got a dark blue there, our indigo, plus the green, and they give you cyan, light blue. So the green light, when you mix the green light and the blue, dark blue light, you get pale blue. You get what looks like the primary colour of paint. But it actually has green light in it. How can I prove to you that blue paint has green light in it? Because I know you're saying it can't. How can it? That's a secondary colour. Well, it's only, don't forget, each of these colours reflects two colours of light. Well, this colour is absorbing red light. It's absorbing red light. Okay, we said that. When we look at our wheel here, we just look opposite, and our blue, our cyan coloured paint is absorbing red light. That's all it's doing. It's allowing through blue light and green light. This cyan, it allows green, it allows blue, but it does not allow red. Okay? How do I know it allows green light? Because I've coated the paper with it here, and where the yellow has come across it, green light is coming through. So it must be reflecting green light. It must. The yellow, where I've coated the paper with yellow, and it's overlapping onto the blue, there's also green coming through. So the yellow pigment that absorbs dark blue light, must be reflecting green light. It must. What it doesn't absorb, it reflects. What it doesn't reflect, it absorbs. It's as simple as that. So our yellow is reflecting green light, and it's reflecting red light. So that means that yellow is made from green and red light. Cyan, our sky blue colour, the correct primary colour in the paint set that we get. Sometimes you get the dark blue actually in the paint set, and then you can't make this pale blue as well, another colour you can't make. So our cyan, we know, reflects green light, and it reflects dark blue light. So therefore, cyan is made from dark blue plus green light. The magenta colour reflects red and blue. So therefore, our magenta, which should be a primary colour, contains red and blue light, because the pigment is allowing both those colours to come through. And what we do by intersecting the colours like this is we determine which colour light is shared. If these were primary colours, if they truly were primary colours, these intersections should be black, shouldn't they? Because this would only be reflecting that kind of light, and this would only be reflecting that kind of light. And since we mix them together, they would not be reflecting, they would both be absorbing, and what you don't reflect, you absorb, so therefore they would be absorbing everything. Because when we add pigment, we only increase what is absorbed. So if my cyan is absorbing the red light, add yellow to it. The yellow is absorbing the blue light, and that will only leave one remaining colour that's not being absorbed, which is green light. So, what we think of as primary colours are in fact absorbing a single primary colour each. They each absorb one primary colour of light. So, I'm going to paint some yellow. I've already got some there actually, so we've got some yellow. And what we're doing with our yellow here is we are absorbing blue light. Okay? If I want to see the green or the red light that's contained in that yellow, I have to block out the opposite colour. So if I want to see the red light in the yellow, then I have to block out the green. Okay? Yellow light is a mixture of, I'm going to do this for you so that you know actually, that yellow light is a mixture of green and red. Blue light, oh, I'll do it on this. Yellow light is a mixture of green and red. Blue light, cyan light, is a mixture of blue and green. Magenta light is a mixture of blue light and red light. And yellow light is a mixture of red light and green light. We've come back around. See what's happened here? See what's happened there? See, it all connects nicely. If I want to make magenta, I just take this filter. There it is. It's a pure colour, we call it. But what this filter actually is a filter that is absorbing, let's have a look, it's absorbing green light. That's all it's doing. It's reflecting two colours of light. It's reflecting red and blue. And I can prove it because if I intersect my magenta with the yellow, there's the red coming through still from both of them, which proves that yellow has red in it, and it proves that magenta has red in it. We can do the same with the blue, with the cyan. The cyan contains green. We can prove that cyan contains green by going over yellow with it, showing the green coming through, still coming through it. How would green light be able to get through it otherwise? So what we can now able to do because of this is we are able to make a new chart so we can show what we need to make yellow. So think about this for a second while I paint the other colours. What colours of light do you need to make your yellow? What colours of light do you need to make magenta? What colours of light do you need to make cyan? So, have you got them? To make yellow, we need red and another colour. To make magenta, I think it's more obvious that we need red and another colour. Okay, and the other colour that you need to make yellow, shouldn't be hard, is green. And we'll find the green down here, helping to make cyan. Remember that we said cyan has green in it, which leaves a bit of blue here. There's how we make our colours out of light, out of pure light. These are the only primary colours. Arguably they're the only colours in existence. And everything else is just a mixture of them. The colours of light. And we draw out of them secondary colours. How? Well, this is where the difference comes in between pigment and light. Because with pigment, obviously, when I add pigment to pigment, one thing is very clear, or should be very clear. That is, it gets darker. Okay, so there's my red, there's my blue. It gets darker. It gets darker because we're blocking out our two colours of light that makes each of our primary colours of paint. They're made out of two colours of light each, and we're halving the amount of light. So it gets darker and darker and darker. And if we add the third colour, see how these, what we call primary colours of paint, have an overlap. They're designed to have overlapping light colours. The green is contained in these two, so we mix these two together and only green is allowed to reflect. The blue light is contained in both of these colours, so when we mix them together, only the blue light is allowed to remain. These two block each other out, or rather I should say, this colour does not reflect green light, it absorbs it. Does not reflect red light, it absorbs it, and this colour does not reflect the green light. So they absorb these two, leaving the blue. Same with these two. The yellow absorbs all the blue light. It can't reflect it. If it's absorbing it, it's absorbed, it's gone. The yellow has absorbed it. The magenta absorbs green light. That's all it does, remember. Each of what we call primary colours of paint absorb one colour of light each. So our magenta absorbs the green light, it's gone. Our yellow absorbs the blue light, it's gone. And all we're left with is red, reflecting, remaining to reflect. The one primary colour of light that is left reflecting off the paper is the red. So those are the primary colours of light. And in effect, the primary colours of paint are the secondary colours of light. And in effect, the secondary colours of paint are the primary colours of light, in effect. But the truth is that light is the primary colour. Now, when I said these darken as we add them, these lighten as we add them. And that's where it gets exciting, you see. So when we add the yellow, the green and the red, I was ahead of myself there, they mix together and give us yellow. See, they get lighter. Obviously it's more light. And they give us our yellow. Now if I was to actually mix together the paint colours of green and red, do you know what would happen? We would get black. Do you know why we would get black? Because we've mixed two secondary colours together, which means that they only reflect, we're only reflecting one remaining colour of light. The red is absorbing blue and green, and the green is absorbing blue and red. So all the colours have been absorbed. There's nothing left reflecting. And the same will happen if we mix together the red and the blue light, the blue pigment. We mix those two together, we will also get black, because they are absorbing each other's colours. The same will happen with the blue and the green. This is green here. They will also go to black. Of course, these colours are not exact, and I've also obviously not got the proportions. A bit of blue. The proportions are not exactly correct, but you get the idea. We often in art, in painting, refer to light as additive colours and paint as subtractive pigment. This is subtractive pigment because every time you lay down one of your colours, you're subtracting, as I say. When we paint with yellow, what we're really doing is we are subtracting the blue. We're sucking the blue, we're absorbing it. Once it's absorbed, there is nothing we can paint with that will reflect it again. It's absorbed. They suck it in like a black hole and they never reflect. Okay, colours always absorb, and when you mix them, the colour that was there before that you've mixed it with will continue to absorb. So our yellow is absorbing all that dark blue, but it's letting green and red go through. I want it to go green, so I need to add a filter to it that will block the red, but it will allow the green still. So the yellow is allowing my green to come through, but it's also allowing red, and that's why it looks yellow. I want it just to allow the green light to come through. So I've got another colour here that allows both green and blue light to come through. But my yellow has absorbed all that blue light, and then that means that if we combine these two, we'll be absorbing the red, we'll be absorbing the blue, and just the green will come through if we add this one to it. And there is the green. So, by adding cyan. Shall I do one more? Just for the slow coaches at the back of the class. So, I'm being mean. So if I want to make red, and this will really bring it home, I need my magenta. That allows red through. But there's a problem with magenta. It also allows blue to come through. No wonder I used to try and add blue to it, to get blue to my red, to get to magenta, because magenta does indeed contain blue light. But now I want to create red out of this, so I need something else that's going to stop the blue light, but just allow the red to come through. And this will be the one. This colour yellow absorbs blue light and it allows the green and the red, but we're blocking the green, so we should remain with just red if we add yellow to that. And there it is, there's red, or orangey red. Add a bit more magenta. As I say, it's all orange really. And there it is, it's red. Put it next to the actual red there and you can see it's practically the same colour. A bit thinner, but it's the same colour. And the final example, I want to create what's the last one? I want to create dark blue, and I've only got pale blue to create it out of. See, a lot of people think that dark blue is a primary colour, and again, this is the bad paint sets that give you this dark blue in the paint set. It's not, it's a secondary colour. here's your primary colour, cyan. There we are, that nice beautiful sky blue that you get. But what we want is we want dark blue. So how do we make our dark blue? Well, the cyan it allows green and dark blue to shine, so that's because we need to block the green, so yellow won't do it. This magenta will allow the dark blue to go through, and it will suck in the green that we need to get rid of, and that should just leave it there. So we go with magenta to try and create dark blue here. There's magenta, okay. We've added magenta to cyan, and add a bit more cyan to it actually, cyan. And that's giving us, there it's coming now, it's giving us a beautiful, deep, dark, indigo blue, dark, deep blue. So I hope that has clarified for people how light mixes in an additive way to create what we think of as primary colours, but which are actually secondary colours of light, which is yellow, magenta and cyan. They're the secondary colours of light, mixing the two colours of light each one, made by mixing two colours of light. Okay, I've put away my tripod and everything now, but I want to go over clearly what happens if we take yellow and we mix it with cyan, because this is where you may be still thinking to yourself, we could say that the cyan here has a lot of yellow in it compared to the cyan here, where it's green in the middle, but we could say that on the way to the yellow, what we've got, and what you will hear painters, artists, they will say, oh, that blue there has got more green in it, more yellow in it I should say. It's not quite green yet, it's got more yellow in it. So if I've said that yellow is not really a colour, it's just the absence of blue, going back to our chart, it's a different page actually, but if we say that yellow is the absence of blue, the yellow is absorbing the indigo, I should say the dark blue light, then how is it possible that we see yellow as if it's an actual colour in the cyan? So, and in the green we see the yellow. So what I want to do is just explain what really happens. Cyan, if you remember, is a mixture of indigo. Got two different indigos on this palette, one is better than the other. It's a mixture of the indigo and the green. Okay, that's what makes the cyan. Indigo light and green light. So the light that's reflecting off this, if we were to mix it with the light reflecting off that, would give us this colour. If we were to shine two lights through filters of these two colours, if we then shone them onto the same point on the wall, it would light up in cyan, and that would prove to us that cyan is made out of mixing those two colours. And likewise, if we were to take red light, red filter, shine some light through it, shine some light through a green filter, and then join them together on the wall, we will see yellow in where they mix. So that's something you could do yourself if you just need to prove to yourself that really yellow is just green and red light mixed. So how is it that if yellow is just green and red light, doesn't actually contain a colour of its own, it's just green and red, how is it that it looks like a colour that we can add to cyan and make green? So this is a very important question. So first of all, as I say, we need to remember that cyan is actually green and blue. Okay, that's the cyan. That's what cyan is. It's not green and blue paint. It's green and blue light. It's the two colours because cyan is absorbing red. Okay, the red goes into the cyan, and we're left with just the green and the blue being repelled, being reflected. So when I take my yellow paint, so now if I want to make the cyan start to look green, what would I need to do to make this cyan light blue, to make it look more greeny tinged? And I think the answer is quite obvious. So if I want to change my cyan into green, to make it more green, it's very obvious that what I need to do is take away the dark blue, some of the dark blue. Okay, how do I do that? I do it by adding a filter that will take away dark blue without affecting my green. Okay, and if I take away a small amount of the dark blue, then the cyan will start to look more green. Okay, now the colour, obviously, that takes away dark blue is yellow, because dark blue is present in both of the other colours. So the only colour we can take away dark blue with is yellow. So you can say, you can look at it as if yellow is the absence of dark blue. In fact, if you were to make a negative image of dark blue, it would be yellow, and vice versa. And that's another proof of my primary colours. These all, if you make them in a negative image, will come out as these, and vice versa. They will. Okay. The red, which was absorbing the blue and green light, we'll be putting them out as cyan. The dark blue, which was absorbing these two colours of light, we'll be putting them out as yellow. The green, which was absorbing these two colours of light, we'll be putting them out as magenta. Okay? So I hope that's very, very clear now. Now, opposite colours will come out. There's my magenta. There, magenta for the green, cyan for the red, and of course yellow for the blue. Notice also that where you've got a darkish colour, it comes out as a lighter colour. Now, back to here. We must sort this out in our heads. What it is that makes this look a little bit more greeny on its way to green. But not just greener, but going towards yellow. a non-existent colour. How can it possibly be that we make it look as if it's got a bit of a non-existent colour in it? Well, yellow is made from, we're going to put them on here, red and green light, okay? And it's made by repelling the blue light, or absorbing the blue light. I must say absorbing because it's actually repelling the others and it's reflecting them. So where we've got a colour like cyan, which is made by blue and green, if we start to repel the blue, what's going to happen? The green is going to increase. Okay? Now, is there any other difference between cyan and the yellow that we're adding? Well, there is. The yellow also includes red light, whereas our cyan does not include any red light. Okay? Cyan is, remember, indigo light and, can you remember? Green light. Yellow is red light and, remember, green light. If we mix these two together, we will get green, because it's the only light that's left. We've sucked away the blue, the dark blue, we've sucked away the red, we're left with only green. But here's another thing, this is very important. Why it's looking yellow, like this non-existent colour, is here. Because the yellow, although the cyan does not reflect red light, it sucks it in, if we decrease the proportion of cyan in our mix, doesn't look cyan, does it, that one, and increase the yellow, it will start to gradually allow the red light to come through, because we're making less and less and less of the sucking away of the red light. The same thing here, we've got blue light being sucked in by the yellow, so then there's no blue in the colour here, and as we go towards the cyan, so as we're adding cyan, we're painting with these paint colours of cyan and yellow, we're gradually reducing the red in the amount. That's to say, we're blocking the red more here. We're sucking more of the red away as we introduce more of the cyan. And what that does is to increase both of these, and crucially increasing this blue here, because the yellow, one of the things it blocks, as you know, here is blue, so it increases this way, and there we've got blue and green making the cyan, so it will go more towards blue, and in between the two there's the green. So I hope that is now getting clearer for you. It's very, very difficult to hold it all in your head at once. Very difficult. The best thing that you can do is simply to paint yourself one of these. Okay. One of these things with the interlocking discs, and just, oops, I did red when I should have done magenta. Look, and I'm getting orange, I'm getting the non-existent primary colours. There, proves the habits die hard of a lifetime and a childhood. But you make your own one of these. We've all seen these, haven't we? Make your own one of these. And the important thing to remember about it is that what you're really doing here is you are making the primary colours of light in these 3 bits. Never mind what's going on out here. This is where you've got 2 colours of light allowed. We've whittled it down to the raw, functional, single colours of light. In fact, I've got to do it again. We've got some yellow there. Let's use that bit. Perhaps it'll work better. And we're going to actually use magenta. We've got yellow, we've got magenta, and where they cross over, look, red. Okay. And we're going to have cyan as well now. Here. Cross that onto the yellow. There's our green. Green light. Pure green light. We've blocked out the blue. We've blocked out the red. And here, mix it with magenta so that we're blocking out the blue and we're blocking out the green, and we are left with just the dark blue. And then of course, as I say here, we're blocking out the dark blue with the yellow, we are blocking out the green with the red, and we are just left with the magenta, and we're just left with pure red light. I cheated there, I got some red out of the palette. So I say reds are funny. Reds are funny in watercolours. It's a lot to think about, it's a lot to take in. It won't all fall into place at once. You'll grasp it and then you'll lose it again. And then you'll grasp it again. Don't worry. All that matters is just that now you know that really the primary colours are of light, and paint simply splits up light by selectively sucking away parts of the spectrum to create these very partial lights. You know, the darker colours, the secondary colours, which are darker than the primary colours. They have to be, because we're blocking out more light with the secondary colours than with the primary colours of paint. So that's really all you need to remember, is that we block out 2 types of light and we get the one remaining colour. So it's going to be darker. We block out these 2 to get this one, and we block out these 2 to get this one. Is that right? Well, you go back over it because my head's spinning now. Plus that doesn't look like red now. That doesn't look like magenta now. It looks like red now that it's dried. But here's the magenta here. This arc that I painted just now is really the magenta. But that's really all you need to know, is that the one is an additive system. But really what you're doing is you are adding with light. The light is the additive system, and the paint is the subtractive system. Every time you lay a colour onto the surface, you're absorbing more and more parts of the light spectrum, and it's the extraordinary properties of these things here to absorb precise, exact spectrums of frequency of the light spectrum, which is an amazing thing really. But the way that we've managed to create these things is simply because our eyes can see them. It's our eyes that are amazing really, and our minds, that we can actually see these different shades precisely enough to create these very exact filters that will suck in one colour of light and let another come out. So it's just one of the marvels, really. And that we see them as colours is of course another marvel that is beyond all the explanations of science, that says that all these are just different frequencies of the same thing. But I mean, we can see colours, we see much more than science sees. And I hope you've seen a little bit more because of watching this video.